What up, everybody? Well, it's Friday the 13th, and I'm trying to block the ugliness in this room, but I've got a surprise unboxing and some more diagrams. Can't get enough. I know it's bad luck to make a video Friday the 13th, but what choice do I have when I look out on Thursday the 12th and then my package comes in? So I was worried out of my mind all week, thinking it would never come. You know why? Because once it gets to the US, sometimes they can't track it anymore. So in this package from AliExpress, I ordered a few things, and believe you me, I would not order from AliExpress if I could get them at Dollar Tree, which is where they should be. But unfortunately, when it comes to boy dolls like this, very special Stacy boy dolls, Walmart and even Target seem to have bought into the mindset that because boy dolls are seen as being boy toys, which they never should have been, and because boys' parents think they'll be gay or they'll turn out gay if they play with dolls, which both of those are ridiculous. Boy dolls are still for girls, and boys, if they're not gay, will simply not play with them at all. So, without further ado, I have a very special edition. You see, this was basically an albino version. Watch. They created an albino version of the black kid named Jackson with the skin fade, so that you could have a white boy other than the artist boy that looks part Asian. And it's pretty sad when they're having to make the token boy another race in order to justify having any diversity in gender. So this one has a skin fade, but this one just has an albino version with eyebrows drawn. So at first I thought that was the only kind of boy doll I would ever get, other than the artist boy that I don't know if I've ever shown. He has Asian eyes, almond-shaped eyes, but brown hair. Well, this boy, I'm pretty sure he's like a Stacy clone, a Stacy boy clone. You know, obviously they have girl dolls, which I've shown before. But I think that's a Harry Potter. I think that's what that is. It's Harry Potter without his glasses. And this is a blonde Harry Potter, to have some variation that looks white. And what I did was, I stripped this boy naked. See, they came with shoes but not clothes, making them a bona fide craft doll. And what I'm going to do, see, here's the little brother. I bought these at Dollar Tree. You know, it's amazing when you have gender neutral outfits but not dolls at Dollar Tree, unless you remove their hair. So one of those boys that had his clothing removed in order to give it to the better looking blonde white boy will have to wear a spacesuit to go in the space room with the space girl, the blue version. May have to cut the legs, or I might be able to fold them. And while I thought I was gonna have to resort to dressing one like a fireman, and I put this one in a hoodie so that he looks more ghetto. You know, that's pretty sad. And then the other boy that I bought, here's a boy and girl that look more Indian than anything, because he's like a black boy with a white hairdo. And I ordered some extra clothing. So, pretty sad. The only variation you can have is black boys with white features or white boys with black features, because that's how few head molds they can really make. But yet it's beautiful nonetheless, because no matter what natural color of hair a boy has or what skin tone, you know, it's just a wonderful thing to have boy dolls. You know, I hate this idea that dolls are just this girls only planet, like Sophia the First, or you'll just have a few token males that are sidelined severely, you know, shoved to the side, not even included in the intro song, when they're the most interesting character on the stupid show. Perhaps my only reason for tuning in, and totally have a Halloween vibe, despite being excluded from Halloween episodes, when their little niece and all the witches are there. So, I'll go ahead and post this video along with more diagrams. Happy Friday the 13th. What's up, guys? Well, I'm in the other room. I hope I don't forget this. But, took 2 seconds to put my little boy in a space outfit, which, will I change it? Probably so. Many times, but for now, he can be an astronaut with his eyes matching his spacesuit, and she can be an astronaut with her eyes matching parts of her spacesuit. Well, what I want to talk about in this video is how that is what's lacking in the doll world. That is what's lacking. I wish you could go to Dollar Tree, and as surely as you can buy all those unisex outfits, you know, like what girl wants to put her Barbie in a fireman's outfit, really? Or a space cadet? I mean, really, what girl really does that? We all know that they can double as unisex clothes for dolls that come nude, but we want to be boys. And I think that's a shame. I think it's a shame that they seem to have decided that male exclusion equals female empowerment. That if only we could get rid of the males, or exclude the males, you know, just write them out of the story, take them out of the intro song, you know, make it like they're a minor character, if they're even a character at all, you know, get you used to seeing them and then deny that they ever existed as a character after a few seasons. You know, they think that somehow removing the males will empower the females. You know, that if only we didn't have so many guys around, that girls would be astronauts and firefighters and what have you. You know, that women would step up and be all these things that men invented. You know, we would be the pilots, we would be the, well, everything in a world without men, but that's just simply not the case. You know, that's like saying, you know, if we took the men out of the military, that the women could just fight off all the enemies with no problem. Well, that is the problem. The enemies would have men. So, I think that's just ridiculous, and I think that what's a shame is that I have to wait, or that you have to wait for 2 weeks. Really, it wasn't that long. But 12 days, you know, luckily I got it by my birthday. If I'd ordered a little later, may not have. But you have to wait 2 weeks for a package from another country, loosely based on something that was produced in the U.S. I mean, you're not going to tell me they couldn't have done that in the U.S. You know, made a blonde Harry Potter, made an albino Jackson boy, you know, the little black boy. made, you know, more versions of the Chelsea boy, made more versions of Todd in the 90s. You know, just made more variation on male dolls that weren't necessarily main characters in a show that also included girls. So, you know, I mean, they could have done that in the US. I mean, they could make male dolls and sell them at a Dollar Tree or Dollar General. But unfortunately, as I stated before, the only way you get that is if they're trying to get rid of, you know, a few top of the line kins, you know, like beach kins that have just now gone out of style after a few years of not selling, you know, like beach kin from a couple years ago that they might be trying to sell as a last ditch effort at Dollar Tree or Dollar General on clearance. But you just don't see, you know, a cheap equivalent of the readily available female that comes in blonde, brunette, black, Hispanic, redhead, everything you can imagine. Every variation you can imagine, she comes in. Every age group in some way. Whereas the male, they can't even sell the top of the line. And I can't believe my video about how male dolls are not for male children is already a year old. You know, but that is the misconception that keeps them from being readily available. The idea that, you know, because boys don't play with dolls and male dolls are for boys, which they're not, that they shouldn't be available because, I mean, who would ever buy such an oxymoron? Well, you know, a person who realizes that there's two genders, you know, a person who realizes that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that just because the world has decided that the only people you can call beautiful are long-haired feminine girls with makeup, doesn't mean that other types of people aren't. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that I'm ugly just because I don't have 2 feet of dead cells hanging off of my head and a dress. So yeah, I think they should be more readily available. And as I've stated before, you know, we only tolerate the crap. Girls who watch boy shows are only really tolerating the crap, you know, like the magical element, the unrealistic element, so that we can have access to boy dolls and things that pertain to boys. You know, the minute they start making the characters girls who do unrealistic things instead, you know, like pink glittery Spider-Men or Spider-Women, I guess she would be, Wonder Woman, Catwoman, you know, the female superheroes have so little appeal to anyone who isn't a male with such a fantasy that we wouldn't even know their names. You know, if there was a female Justice League, most girls wouldn't even be able to identify the characters. That's how little we want female superheroes. So, we only tolerate cartoons to have dolls. And I wish that were more widely known. And I'll go ahead and post this video along with some more diagrams that I've made